You were supposed to pick my wife up from the airport. I told you this morning she was moving in with us for good." Arthur's shout echoed down the entire street as he shoved me out of the house. My things were flying through the air: clothes, shoes, framed photographs of him as a child. Everything landed on the front lawn like trash. The neighbors came out to watch. Helen from next door brought her hand to her mouth. Robert from across the street just shook his head. And I, Eleanor, at 65 years old, found myself turned into a public spectacle. The door slammed in my face with a crack so loud it rattled the windows. Inside, I heard Chloe's sweet, victorious voice. "It's about time, baby. Now this house is ours." She was already in charge. She, who had never put a single dollar toward building these walls. But what neither of them knew is that at 5:47 in the afternoon, that very same day, Chloe would receive a notification from the bank that would make her turn pale. "Honey," it says here that. Her voice would tremble like never before. And I would be there to see it. Because this house, my house, held secrets that were about to explode in their faces. But to understand how we got to that moment of justice, I need to tell you how it all began. How the son I loved more than my own life became a stranger. This story started long before that terrible day. It started 35 years ago when I held Arthur in my arms for the first time in that small community hospital where I nearly died giving him life. My husband, may he rest in peace, squeezed my hand and told me, "Eleanor, this boy will be our blessing." And he was. For years he was. Arthur grew up to be a sweet, loving boy, the kind of son every mother dreams of having. He helped me with the groceries, hugged me without me having to ask, and told me that when he grew up, he would take care of me forever. But life has cruel ways of changing plans. When Arthur was just 12 years old, my husband died in a car crash. From one day to the next, we were left alone without a father, without financial support, with a mortgage we still owed the bank, and an uncertain future that looked as dark as a bottomless pit. I remember the night after the funeral perfectly. Arthur came into my room, his eyes red from crying so much, and curled up next to me. "Mom, I'm scared. What's going to happen to us?" I stroked his hair, swallowing my own tears, and made him a promise I would keep until my last day. "I'm going to get you through this, son. I swear it on your father's memory. You're going to go to college. You're going to have everything you need. You're going to be someone in life." And I kept that promise. God knows I did. I worked 3 jobs simultaneously. By day, I cleaned offices downtown. In the afternoons, I ironed other people's clothes in our garage. At night, I baked pies that I sold to local diners. My hands became covered in calluses. My back began to ache so badly that some days I could barely get out of bed. But every time I saw Arthur with his books, studying under the lamp in the living room, it was all worth it. Every sacrifice made sense. I sold the few pieces of jewelry my husband had given me, a gold ring that was my grandmother's, the pearl earrings I wore on my wedding day. Everything went to pay for Arthur's school fees, to buy him clothes, to make sure he had what his classmates had. I never wanted him to feel less than anyone. I never wanted him to carry the shame of poverty, and he knew it. He saw me crying in silence when he thought I was asleep. He watched me count coins on the kitchen table, dividing what little we had between food and bills. But I always smiled at him. I always told him, "Everything's fine, honey. Mom's got it all under control." When Arthur turned 18 and got a scholarship to college, I cried tears of joy. It was proof that it had all been worth it. My son was going to be a professional. My son would have a better life than mine. At his graduation, 4 years later, he stood up in front of everyone and said, "Everything I am, I owe to my mother. She is my hero." I held those words in my heart like a treasure. I thought that nothing and no one could ever change the love we had for each other. But I was wrong, because 2 years ago, Chloe entered our lives like a hurricane disguised as a soft breeze. The first time I saw her, I thought she was beautiful. She wore an emerald green dress that highlighted her slim figure. Her black hair fell perfectly on her shoulders. She smiled with perfect white teeth. "Mom, this is Chloe, the woman of my life." Arthur looked at her as if she were an angel sent from heaven. I smiled back, excited that my son had found love. "Welcome to the family, sweetheart. I hugged her sincerely. She returned the hug, but her hands were cold. Her eyes, though smiling, had something in them I couldn't decipher at the time. Something calculating, something empty, but I ignored the feeling. I told myself it was just a mother's nerves. That silly insecurity we all feel when another woman enters our sons' lives. For the first few months, Chloe was charming. She helped me in the kitchen. She asked me for recipes. She'd say, "Eleanor, you're the best cook. Arthur is so lucky to have such a dedicated mother." I felt happy. I thought I had gained not just a daughter-in-law, but a daughter. But things started to change after the wedding. It was a small, simple ceremony because we didn't have much money. Chloe accepted everything with a smile, but I noticed how she looked at the other brides' dresses in magazines, how she sighed when we saw lavish weddings on television. Something in her wanted more, much more than we could give. After the honeymoon, which was just a weekend at the beach, Chloe and Arthur moved in with me. "It's temporary, Mom, just until we save up for our own place." I was happy to have them. The house felt less empty, but little by little, Chloe started to change things. First, it was small details. "Eleanor, don't you think these curtains are getting kind of old? We should buy new ones." Then, "This couch is so worn out, we should replace it." And later, "Why don't we renovate the kitchen? It would look so much more modern." Each suggestion came with a smile, but I felt like she was erasing my presence from my own home, as if everything I had built wasn't good enough, as if my taste, my history, didn't matter. Arthur started to change. At first, it was subtle things I tried to ignore. He would come home from work and no longer ask me how my day was. He wouldn't sit with me for coffee in the afternoons as we used to. Now, he went straight to the bedroom with Chloe, and I would hear their laughter through the walls, laughter from which I was excluded. When I knocked on their door to offer them dinner, Chloe would open it with a forced smile. "Thanks, Eleanor, but we already ate out. You didn't have to go to the trouble." But it hadn't been trouble. Cooking for my son was something I did with love, not obligation. Yet, every time I cooked something, they had already eaten. Every time I cleaned the house, Chloe would say, "Don't worry, Eleanor. I can do it. You should rest more." It sounded considerate, but what she was really saying was, "This isn't your house to take care of anymore." One night, 6 months after the wedding, I overheard a conversation that chilled my blood. I had gone to the kitchen for a glass of water. It was almost 11 at night, and I thought everyone was asleep. But as I passed Arthur's room, I heard Chloe's voice. "Babe, we need to talk about your mom." I froze in the hallway. I know I shouldn't have stayed to listen, but my feet wouldn't move. "What's wrong with her?" Arthur asked, his voice sleepy. "It's just, I don't know how to say this without it sounding bad, but I feel like we have no privacy. She's always here, always watching everything we do. She doesn't let us be an independent couple." My heart began to beat painfully. "Chloe, this is her house. What do you want me to do?" There was a silence. Then she sighed, that soft sigh that feigns disappointment. "Nothing, honey. Forget it. It's just, I dreamed we'd have our own space. But I get it. She raised you alone, and she still got you on a tight leash. On a leash. As if the love between a mother and son was something negative, as if I were a chain instead of his support." I didn't sleep that night. I tossed and turned, feeling the venom of those words spread through my chest. Was I an intruder in my own home? Was my presence an obstacle to my son's happiness? The next day, I decided to give them more space. I started staying in my room more. I ate alone in the kitchen before they got home. I went for walks in the afternoons so they could have the house to themselves. But nothing was ever enough. Chloe always found something to criticize. Eleanor left the dishes in the drying rack. I prefer them put away immediately. "Oh, could you not watch television so late? The noise bothers us." The house became a minefield where I walked in constant fear of taking a wrong step. 3 months after that conversation I overheard, Chloe got pregnant. I thought that would soften her. I thought having a baby would make her understand a mother's unconditional love. I offered to help her with everything. "Chloe, honey, I can go with you to the doctor's appointments. I can cook nutritious meals for you. I can knit clothes for the baby." She looked at me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Thanks, Eleanor, but my mom is already coming to help me. She knows about these things. It was like a slap in the face. I knew about these things too. I had gone through a pregnancy alone, working until the last day, with no one to take care of me. But my experience, my love, wasn't good enough for her. She only wanted her own mother. And I understood in that moment that to Chloe, I would never be family. I was just the owner of the house she was living in, temporarily. When Liam was born, my heart filled with a joy I hadn't felt in years. He was beautiful. He had Arthur's eyes and my late husband's smile. I held him in my arms in the hospital and cried, "Welcome to the world, my angel. Your grandma is going to love you so much." But Chloe quickly took him from my arms. "Careful, Eleanor. He's still very fragile," as if I didn't know how to hold a baby, as if I hadn't raised a son all by myself. The first few months were a silent torture. I wanted to help with Liam, but Chloe wouldn't let me. "I already bathed him, Eleanor. He already ate, Eleanor. He's sleeping. Don't wake him, Eleanor." Every sentence was another wall between my grandson and me. Arthur said nothing. He just looked at his wife with adoration and accepted every decision she made. My son had become a stranger who chose another woman over his own mother. A year after Liam was born, the tension in the house was unbearable. Chloe no longer bothered to hide her annoyance with me. She spoke to me coldly. She avoided being in the same room as me. And Arthur, my Arthur, began to look at me with impatience. "Mom, why don't you go stay at Helen's place for a few days? Chloe needs space." Space. It was always about space. But this was my house, the house my husband and I bought with so much sacrifice, the house where I raised my son, the house that was still in my name, though they didn't know it, because after my husband's death, he left me everything in the will. The house, the few properties we had, everything was legally in my name. Arthur was my heir, yes, but only after my death. As long as I was alive, I was the owner, and they had no idea. Chloe started making more direct comments. "Eleanor, this house is so old, we should sell it and buy a modern apartment. Something more practical for us as a young family." Us. As if I weren't part of that family. "I'm not selling this house, Chloe. My husband's memory is here. My son grew up here. This house stays." Her expression changed. For the first time, I saw her true face, pure coldness. "Well, it'll be Arthur's one day anyway, and then we'll make the right decisions." There was a threat in her words. There was calculation. And in that moment, I understood that she wasn't waiting to inherit. She was waiting for me to disappear, to get out of the way, to stop being an obstacle to her plans. Things got worse quickly after that conversation. Chloe began to poison Arthur's mind more aggressively. "Your mom doesn't respect our decisions. Your mom interferes with how we raise Liam. Your mom lives in the past and won't let us move forward." And Arthur, blind with love for his wife, started to believe her. He started to treat me with disdain, with impatience, as if I were a burden, as if everything I had done for him meant nothing. One day we argued. It was the first time my son ever yelled at me. "Mom, just stop. Chloe's right. You don't let us live our lives. You're always there, always giving your opinion, always sticking your nose where it doesn't belong." My legs trembled. "Arthur, I just want to help. I just want to be part of your life, of my grandson's life." He shook his head in frustration. "Well, we don't need your help anymore. And as for Liam, we decide how to raise him. Not you." That night, I cried until I had no tears left. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror and saw a 65-year-old woman, tired, wrinkled, with her heart broken in 1,000 pieces. Had I worked so hard for this? Had I sacrificed my youth, my health, my dreams for this? To be treated like a nuisance in my own home? I thought about leaving. I thought about renting a room somewhere and letting them live their perfect life without me. But something in me refused. This was my house. This was my life. And I wasn't going to be kicked out without a fight. Though at that moment, I didn't know the fight would come much sooner than I imagined, and it would come in the most humiliating way possible. Chloe started planning her big return. She had traveled to visit her family in another state, a trip that stretched into 2 weeks. 2 weeks of peace in the house. Arthur was more relaxed. He even spoke to me with some affection. We played with Liam, we cooked together, we watched movies in the living room. For a moment, I had my son back, but I knew it was temporary. I knew that when Chloe returned, everything would go back to being hell. And I was right. Because the morning she was due to return, everything exploded. That morning, I woke up feeling terrible. A fever had arrived during the night like an unwanted visitor. My body was burning and shivering at the same time. My throat hurt so much that swallowing was agony. I dragged myself to the bathroom and saw myself in the mirror. My eyes were glassy, my face pale, my lips dry and cracked. It was obvious I was sick. Very sick. I got back into bed, wrapped in every blanket I could find, praying the fever would break. But no such luck. At 7 in the morning, my bedroom door burst open. Arthur came in without knocking, without asking how I was, without even really looking at me. Mom, Chloe lands at the airport today at 3 in the afternoon. You need to go pick her up. His voice was mechanical, cold, as if he were reading a to-do list. I tried to sit up, but the room spun. Arthur, honey, I'm very sick. I have a high fever. I don't think I can drive like this. Why don't you go? You get off work at 2. That gives you plenty of time to get to the airport. I said it in a weak, almost pleading voice. He looked at me impatiently, as if my words were cheap excuses. Because I work, Mom. I have important meetings. I can't just run out like that. You're home all day. It's not too much to ask for you to do this for your daughter-in-law. Besides, Chloe is coming to live with us permanently. She's finished her business there. This is important. She needs to feel welcome, that we're a family. Family. That word again used as a weapon. But Arthur, I seriously don't feel well. He held up his hand, cutting me off. I don't want excuses, Mom. Chloe arrives at 3 o'clock sharp. International Terminal. Flight 703. You have all the info on the paper I left in the den. Don't disappoint her. And he left, closing the door hard. I just lay there, feeling the tears roll down my cheeks. They weren't just tears of physical pain. They were tears of abandonment, of being misunderstood, of injustice. My son hadn't asked how I felt. He hadn't touched my forehead to feel the fever. He hadn't shown a single shred of concern. All he cared about was that I followed his order to pick up his wife. I tried to get up. I really did. I stood up, holding onto the wall, but my legs were shaking so much I could barely stay upright. My vision blurred, and I had to sit on the edge of the bed to keep from falling. I looked at the clock. It was 8 in the morning. I had 7 hours to recover enough to drive. 7 hours to perform a miracle. I took medicine for the fever. I forced myself to eat something, though every bite was hard to get down. I took a warm shower, hoping it would revive me, but it only left me weaker. At 1 in the afternoon, when I tried to get dressed, my body simply gave up. I put on a pair of pants and a beige blouse, but when I bent over to put on my shoes, everything spun. I fell to my knees on my bedroom floor. The impact was hard. I felt a sharp pain in my right knee that made me cry out. I stayed there, on the floor, crying from frustration and pain. I couldn't do it. I simply could not drive in this condition. It would be dangerous for me and for everyone else. I could cause an accident. I could kill myself or someone else. It wasn't a matter of not wanting to. It was a matter of not being able to. With trembling hands, I grabbed the phone and called Arthur at his office. It rang 4 times before he answered. "What is it, Mom?" "I'm busy." His tone was one of pure annoyance. "Arthur, please, listen to me." I fell. I hurt my knee badly. The fever hasn't gone down. I can't drive like this. It's dangerous. Please, son, you go get Chloe. I'm not in any condition. I'm begging you. There was a long silence, a heavy silence that filled me with terror. When he finally spoke, his voice was pure ice. "I can't believe how selfish you are, Mom. You've always been this way, always putting your own things ahead of what's really important. Chloe was right about you. She said you would try to sabotage her arrival somehow, and here you are, making up excuses not to go get her, playing the victim like always." His words were like daggers. "Arthur, I'm not making anything up. I'm really sick. Enough, Mom. I don't want to hear it. Figure it out, but Chloe has to be picked up from the airport. It's your responsibility. I'm not going. And if you don't go, then she can take a cab, and you can pay her the $100 it's going to cost. Because I'm not paying for your irresponsibility. And he hung up. The dead phone stayed in my hand. I remained sitting on my bedroom floor for I don't know how long. The clock said 2 in the afternoon. In 1 hour, Chloe would be landing. And I was there, crumpled on the floor, without the strength to even stand. I tried to get up again. I tried with all my will. But my body wouldn't respond. My legs wouldn't hold me. My head was spinning horribly. And then I knew I wasn't going to be able to go. I wasn't going to make it to the airport. Chloe was going to have to take a taxi. And I was going to pay the consequences. Consequences I couldn't imagine would be so terrible. I dragged myself to the bed and lay down, hugging a pillow, waiting for the inevitable. Waiting for the storm I knew was coming. And it came. With a fury that left me breathless. I heard the car arrive around 5 in the afternoon. 2 hours after the flight had landed. The car doors slammed, footsteps thundered up the stairs, and then my door was thrown open violently. Arthur stormed in, his face red with rage. Behind him was Chloe, her eyes full of fake tears and a perfectly rehearsed victim expression. How could you, Mom? How could you just leave her stranded at the airport like she was a stranger? I tried to explain. I tried to sit up in bed, but Arthur wouldn't let me speak. I told you this morning. I told you clearly. You were supposed to pick my wife up from the airport. I told you she was moving in with us for good. And you, with your selfishness, you just left her there. Arthur, please, I'm sick. Look at me. I don't care. Chloe had to pay $120 for a cab. $120 because you wouldn't get out of this bed. Chloe sobbed dramatically. I just wanted to feel welcome, Eleanor. I just wanted someone from the family to be there for me. But you left me all alone, hauling all my bags, trying to find a cab, feeling rejected. It bothers you that much that I'm living here. There was venom in her words, disguised as pain. It's not that, Chloe. I'm really sick. I have a fever. I fell this afternoon. I couldn't drive without. Excuses, Arthur shouted. You always have excuses for everything. I'm tired of this, Mom. Tired of your attitude. Tired of your lack of consideration for my wife. Chloe is right. We can't live like this. We can't live in a house where she isn't respected. Arthur, this is my house. That was my mistake, saying those words. Because something in Arthur snapped. His expression changed to something I had never seen. Pure hatred. Your house? He repeated in a low, dangerous voice. Your house? Mom, I've lived here my entire life. I have rights to this house too. And if I have to choose between you and my wife, I choose Chloe. She is my present and my future. You are just my past. Every word was a stab straight to the heart. Chloe put a hand on Arthur's shoulder with an expression of false concern. Honey, calm down. We don't want things to come to this. But her eyes were looking at me with triumph, with victory. And then Arthur said the words that would change everything. Pack your things. Mom, you are no longer welcome here. If you can't respect my wife, then you can't live under the same roof as us. You're leaving. Today, the world stopped. What? I whispered. You heard me. Get out, now. Find somewhere to stay. With Helen. With whoever. But you can't stay here. I tried to reason with him. I tried to remind him of everything we had been through together. Arthur, I'm your mother. I raised you alone. I sacrificed everything for you. Is this how you're going to repay me? By kicking me out of my own house because I couldn't pick up your wife from the airport while I was sick? But it was like talking to a brick wall. His eyes were empty of any emotion except anger. I don't care what you did before. Mom, that doesn't give you the right to treat Chloe badly. She is my wife. She comes first. Always. Chloe stepped toward the bed with slow, calculated steps. She leaned toward me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Eleanor, maybe it's for the best. You need your space, and we need ours. This isn't working. Let's be honest. Honest. What an ironic word coming from her. The woman who had systematically manipulated my son for 2 years. The woman who had poisoned our relationship with lies whispered in the dark. I got out of bed with all the dignity I could muster. My body was shaking from fever and contained rage. Arthur, this house is in my name. Legally, it's mine. Your father left it to me in his will. If anyone has to leave, it isn't me. I saw his expression change. Confusion first, then disbelief. Chloe paled slightly, but recovered quickly. Honey, your mom is delirious from the fever. She doesn't know what she's saying. But I knew perfectly well what I was saying. And they knew it too. Arthur had never asked about the house papers. He had never questioned the ownership. He simply assumed it would be his one day, that I was just a temporary occupant of something he considered his inheritance. I'm not delirious, Chloe. This house is mine. And if you want me to leave, you're going to have to drag me out. Because legally, you are my guests here, not the other way around. Arthur's face turned crimson with fury. Guests? Guests in the house where I grew up? In the house my father built? Yes, Arthur. Guests. Your father left everything to me because he trusted me to take care of you, but also because he knew this house was my refuge, my security. You can't just kick me out of my own property because your wife tells you to. Chloe stepped forward, no longer hiding her annoyance. This is ridiculous. You're a selfish old woman clinging to a dead past. Arthur deserves this house. He's young, he has a family to build. You've already lived your life. Her words were like acid. But before I could answer, Arthur exploded. You know what, Mom? I don't give a damn whose house it is legally. You're leaving anyway, right now. And he grabbed my arm. Hard. Violently. He dragged me out of the room as I cried out in pain and shock. Arthur, let me go. You're hurting me. But he didn't let go. He dragged me down the hall, down the stairs, with me stumbling, fighting to keep my balance. Chloe followed behind, not crying anymore, but with an expression of absolute satisfaction on her face. We reached the living room, and Arthur shoved me toward the couch. Pack what you can carry. You have 10 minutes. I'm not packing anything. This is my house. Then he completely lost control. He ran up the stairs, went into my room, and started throwing my things out the window. Clothes, shoes, framed pictures, books, everything flew onto the front lawn. I ran after him, screaming, "Stop, please stop." But it was useless. He was possessed by a rage I didn't recognize. A rage that Chloe had carefully cultivated for months. I ran back down the stairs and out to the yard. My belongings were scattered all over the grass. My neighbors had come out to watch the show. Helen was on her porch with her hands over her mouth. Robert was shaking his head. The young couple from the house across the street was filming with their phones. The humiliation was total. Absolute. Devastating. I tried to pick up a few things, but there were too many. My underwear was thrown on the grass for everyone to see. The photos of my dead husband, of Arthur as a child, all trampled and dirty. My old but comfortable shoes scattered everywhere. It was as if my entire life had been emptied out and exposed for public judgment. Arthur came out of the house carrying 2 more suitcases. He threw them onto the lawn without care. You were supposed to pick my wife up from the airport. I told you this morning she was moving in with us permanently, and you left her there as if she didn't matter. His voice echoed down the street. The neighbors heard every word. This is what happens when you don't respect my family, he yelled, pointing at me as if I were the villain in this story. Chloe appeared at the door, holding Liam. My 2-year-old grandson looked at me with confused eyes. Grandma? He said in his little voice. He reached his arms out to me, but Chloe turned him around, hiding him from my view. No, baby. Grandma has to leave. She doesn't live here anymore. Those words broke something in me, something fundamental. I walked toward the porch steps, tears streaming down my face. Arthur, please, don't do this. Think about what you're doing. I'm your mother. I gave you life. I raised you alone. I worked until I destroyed my health for you. Is this how you're going to repay me? Like this. He looked down at me from the entryway of my house, with an expression so cold he didn't look like my son. You chose not to go get Chloe. I'm choosing this. I don't want you here anymore, Mom. Find somewhere else to live. because this house isn't yours anymore. From now on, it's ours." And he closed the door. The sound of that door closing was like the sound of my heart breaking. I stood there, shaking from fever and shock, surrounded by my belongings thrown on the lawn, with the neighbors watching, some with pity, others with morbid curiosity. Helen came down from her porch and walked toward me. "Eleanor, honey, come to my house. You can't stay out here." But I couldn't move. My legs wouldn't respond. I could only stare at the closed door of my house, the house where I had lived for 35 years, the house where my husband died, the house where I raised my son, the house that was now being denied to me by that very same son. Helen took my arm gently. "Come on, dear. Let's get your things, and you'll come with me. We'll figure out what to do later." With her help, I gathered what I could. We stuffed wrinkled, dirty clothes into trash bags. We saved the photographs, wiping the mud from the frames. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold anything. The fever was still high and was now mixed with shock. Helen called her son to help us with the heavier things. Between the three of them, we moved my belongings to her house. The whole time, I kept looking at my door, waiting for it to open, waiting for Arthur to run out, crying, begging for forgiveness, saying it had all been a terrible mistake. But the door never opened. That night, I slept in Helen's guest room. Or rather, I tried to sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Arthur's face screaming at me. I saw Chloe smiling in triumph. I saw Liam reaching his little arms out for me as he was taken away. The fever got worse during the night. Helen had to call a doctor because my temperature rose to dangerous levels. The doctor said I had a severe throat infection that had been complicated by extreme stress. He prescribed antibiotics and complete rest. Rest. As if I could rest after what had happened. As if my mind could just shut off and stop replaying the scene of my eviction over and over. I spent 3 days in bed, drifting between fever and grief. 3 days with no word from Arthur. Not a call, not a text, nothing. It was as if I had ceased to exist for him. Helen tried to cheer me up. "You'll see, Eleanor. He'll come to his senses. He's your son. He loves you. He's just confused by that woman." But I knew it wasn't that simple. Chloe had worked systematically for 2 years to get to this point. Every venomous comment, every complaint, every fake tear, it had all been calculated for this moment. To get me out of the way, to keep my house, to erase me from my son's and grandson's life. And she had succeeded. On the 4th day, when I could finally get out of bed, I made a decision. I wasn't going to sit around crying like a victim. I wasn't going to accept this injustice without a fight. I called Stephen, the lawyer who had been my husband's friend. He had handled the will when my husband died. He knew the entire legal situation of the property. "Stephen, I need your help. My son kicked me out of my house, and I need to know exactly what my rights are." There was a pause. "Eleanor, your son kicked you out? From the house that's in your name?" "Yes. That's illegal. Completely illegal. That house is yours. You have every legal right to go back." "I don't want to go back like that. I want them to understand they made a mistake. I want justice, Stephen. Not revenge. Justice." Stephen came to visit me at Helen's house the next day. He brought a thick folder full of documents. He sat me down at the kitchen table and spread the papers out in front of me. "Eleanor, this is very clear. The house is entirely in your name. Your husband left it to you in his will, free and clear. Arthur is your heir, yes, but only upon your death. As long as you are alive, that property is exclusively yours. They have zero legal right to kick you out. In fact, technically, they are the ones living there by your permission." My hands trembled as I looked at the documents. There was my name in legal lettering, absolute owner, so I can go back whenever I want. Not only can you go back, you could have them thrown out if you wanted to. It's your property. The idea made me dizzy. Kick out my son? My grandson? No, that wasn't what I wanted. But I didn't want to be walked all over, either. "Stephen, what about the bank account? The house has an account associated with it for utilities and maintenance payments." He checked other papers, also in your name. Your husband set up that account years ago. After his death, You remained the sole owner. Something began to form in my mind. A plan. Not for revenge, but for justice. For a lesson. Stephen, can I freeze that account? Temporarily? He looked at me curiously. You can do whatever you want with your own account. But why? Because they need to understand something fundamental. That nothing they have is guaranteed. That everything they enjoy is because I have allowed it. They need to see reality. Stephen nodded slowly. I understand. But be careful, Eleanor. When you mess with people's money, things get ugly fast. They're already ugly, Stephen. They can't get any worse. He sighed. All right. I'll prepare the necessary documents. I'm also going to send them a legal notification informing them of the situation. That the property is in your name, that you are the legal owner, and that their residence there is at your tolerance. That should make them reconsider their attitude. Do it. And, Stephen, include the part about the bank account. I want them to know I have total control over everything. That afternoon, Stephen sent the documents by certified mail to my house. My house. Because it was still mine, no matter who was living there, the notification would arrive the next morning. And at the same time, I froze the bank account associated with the property. I didn't close it, I just put a temporary freeze on it. Any attempt to use cards or make transfers from that account would be denied. It was a lesson, a necessary lesson about respect, gratitude, and reality. I felt terrible doing it. A part of me screamed that I was being cruel, that he was my son, that I should forgive and forget. But another part, the part that had been publicly humiliated, the part that had watched Chloe triumph as I was thrown out like trash, that part needed them to understand. It needed them to know that their actions had consequences. I barely slept that night. I imagined the moment they would receive the documents. I imagined their faces as they read that I was the absolute owner. I imagined Chloe losing that victorious smile. The next day was long, endless. I stayed at Helen's house, waiting for a call, a text, something. But nothing came in the morning, nothing in the afternoon. The silence was deafening. Stephen called me at 3 in the afternoon. Eleanor, the documents were delivered and signed for. Arthur received them personally at 9 in the morning. And the bank notification about the account freeze should have reached them as well. And still nothing. But be patient. These things take time to process, especially when someone realizes they were completely wrong about their situation. Patience. That word again. As if I hadn't had enough patience for 2 years, watching Chloe destroy my relationship with my son. As if I hadn't had patience enduring slights, subtle humiliations, and hurtful comments. My patience had run out. Now, I just wanted justice. And justice was on its way, though I didn't know exactly how it would arrive. At 5:47 in the afternoon, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered, my heart pounding. Hello? Silence for a moment. Then I heard Chloe's voice. But it wasn't the sweet, controlled voice she always used. It was a trembling, almost hysterical voice. Eleanor, we need to talk. Urgently. Oh, really? Now you want to talk to me, Chloe. How interesting. 4 days ago, you didn't even want to see me. Please, it's important. We received some papers from the bank. It says the account is frozen. It says you're the only one authorized. There must be a mistake. There was no mistake, and she knew it. But I wanted to hear her version. And that surprises you? It surprises you that the account is in my name? Just like the house, just like everything. I heard a fake sob on the other end. Eleanor, please. We didn't want things to go this far. It was a misunderstanding. You know how these things are. Arthur was upset about the airport, but it's over. It's forgotten. We can fix this. Fix this. As if throwing my things on the lawn in front of all the neighbors was something that could be fixed with a quick apology. Where is Arthur? Why isn't he calling me? He's processing the information from the papers. He's in a bit of shock. He didn't know the house was completely in your name. Eleanor, we thought it was a shared inheritance. Lies. It was all lies. Chloe, don't take me for a fool. You two assumed the house was Arthur's because you never bothered to ask. You assumed you could kick me out because you thought I had no rights. But you were wrong. Very wrong. There was another silence. When she spoke again, her voice had a different tone, less pleading, more calculating. Well, it will be Arthur's eventually. You're not going to live forever. So technically, it's still in the family. Her words chilled my blood. She was implying they just had to wait for me to die, that my life was just a temporary obstacle to their plans. You know what, Chloe? You're right. I'm not going to live forever. But as long as I am alive, that house is mine, and I can do whatever I want with it, including selling it if I feel like it. I heard a choked gasp on the other end. You can't do that. That house is Liam's future. It's his inheritance. Liam is my grandson, and I decide his inheritance, not you. You kicked me out of my own home. You humiliated me publicly. You treated me like trash. And now you want me to worry about your future? About your plans? Eleanor, please. Be reasonable. We have rights too. We live there. We've made improvements to the house. We've invested money. Improvements? What improvements? Changing my curtains for yours? Painting the walls the color you wanted? Those aren't improvements. That's erasing me. And as for investments, all the money you've used for house expenses has come from the account that's in my name. My money, not yours. The silence stretched on. I could imagine Chloe processing all this information, realizing she had no leverage, no power, nothing. What do you want? She finally asked in a small voice. What do I want? I want respect. I want my son to remember who I am. I want you to understand that you can't manipulate people without consequences. We can give you money. Arthur has savings we can compensate you for the misunderstanding. Compensate me? With money? As if the pain of being betrayed by my own son has a price. I don't want your money, Chloe. I have my own pension. I have the savings my husband left me. I don't need anything from you. What I need is for you to understand something fundamental. That without my generosity, you have nothing. Without me, you have no house. Without me, you don't have the bank account that pays all the bills. Without me, you'd have to rent a tiny apartment and live on just Arthur's salary. And that, Chloe, is something you should have considered before you poisoned my son's mind against me. I hung up the phone. My hands were shaking, but not from weakness. They were shaking with a strange mixture of power and pain. Power, because I had finally put things in their place. Pain, because it had come to this. Because my relationship with my son was so broken that only the language of lawyers and finances could make him understand. Helen came into the room. Was that them? Yes. And what did they say? What I expected. Panic. Pleading. Attempts at manipulation. But it's not working anymore. I know who Chloe really is now. And soon, Arthur will too. That night, Arthur finally called me. It was almost 10 at night. His voice sounded tired, defeated. Mom, we need to talk. Oh, now you want to talk. Interesting. Mom, please, don't make this harder. I got the papers from the lawyer. I saw the house is in your name. I didn't know. I honestly didn't know. And does that change anything? Does knowing it's legally mine make what you did to me any less terrible? Silence. Mom, I got carried away. I was angry. Chloe was so upset, and I just wanted to support her. Support her. Right. Supporting her meant destroying me, throwing my things on the lawn, humiliating me in front of the whole neighborhood, slamming the door in my face. All to support your wife. I'm sorry. The words sounded hollow, empty. Are you sorry? Or are you just sorry you lost control of the situation? Because when you thought you had power over me, you weren't sorry at all. You just felt contempt. It's not like that. Mom, I love you. I've always loved you. Well, you have a very strange way of showing it, Arthur. Arthur took a deep breath on the other end of the line. Mom, I know I messed up. I know what I did was wrong. But freezing the bank account is too much. We need that money for house expenses. For Liam's food. For everything. And when did you think about Liam's needs when you threw me out? When did you think about your son watching his grandmother be kicked out like a criminal? He didn't see anything. He was inside with Chloe. Don't lie to me, Arthur. I saw him in Chloe's arms when you shut the door. He saw me. And he's going to remember that moment. He's going to remember how you treated his grandmother. There was a sob. A real one this time. I didn't want it to come to this. I didn't want to hurt you. But you did. And now you have to live with the consequences. What do you want me to do? Tell me what you want, and I'll do it. Finally. He was finally asking instead of demanding. He was finally willing to listen. I want you to think. Really think. About who raised you, about who sacrificed everything for you, about who worked 3 jobs so you could get an education. And then I want you to think about whether the woman you married is worth more than all of that. The silence stretched so long I thought he had hung up. Then I heard his broken voice. Chloe says you never accepted her, that you always made her feel inferior. And you believed her? Without asking my side, without questioning her, you just believed her. She's my wife, Mom. I have to believe her. No, Arthur. You have to believe the truth. And the truth is, I tried to accept her. I welcomed her with open arms. But she didn't want to be part of this family. She wanted to replace me. She wanted to erase your past so she could be your only present and future. And she succeeded. She convinced you that I was the problem, when the problem was always her ambition. Chloe isn't ambitious. She just wants what's best for us. What's best? Kicking your sick mother out is what's best. Taking over a house that doesn't belong to you is what's best. Arthur, open your eyes. She's using you. That's enough. I'm not going to listen to you talk bad about my wife. And there it was again. The wall, the blind defense. Then there's nothing more to talk about. The account stays frozen until I decide to unfreeze it. And as for the house, I'm going to talk to Stephen about my legal options. Mom, no. I hung up before he could finish. The tears came afterward. Hot tears that burned my cheeks. Helen held me as I cried on her shoulder. It's okay, dear. You'll see, it will all work out. But I wasn't sure I wanted it to work out. Not like this. Not with Chloe still poisoning everything. The next few days were strange. Silent. There were no more calls from Arthur or Chloe. It was as if they had disappeared. Stephen kept me updated. They made several attempts to use the cards associated with the account. All were declined. They also tried to speak with the bank directly, but they were informed that only you can make changes to the account. And the house? Have they tried anything legal? No. I think they know they don't have a leg to stand on. The documents are clear. They're probably looking for another strategy. Another strategy. With Chloe, there was always another strategy. I knew her type. Manipulative, calculating, patient when she needed to be, and aggressive when she had the upper hand. But now she didn't have the upper hand. And that made her dangerous in a different way. The next call came 5 days after the account freeze. It was late, almost 11 at night. The number was Arthur's. I answered cautiously. Hello, Eleanor. It was Chloe. Her voice sounded different, controlled, but with a sharp edge. We need to resolve this now. My parents are willing to give us money to buy our own house. But we need you to unfreeze the account so we can get our down payment. We have $30,000 saved in there. $30,000. A considerable amount. Money Arthur had probably saved for years. Those savings are in my account. Technically, they're mine now. You can't do that. That's theft. Theft? Like when you stole my son from me? Like when you stole my peace, my home, my family? I didn't steal anything from you. Arthur chose me. That's not stealing, it's love. No, Chloe. That's manipulation. And manipulation isn't love. It's control. I heard agitated breathing on the other end. You are a bitter old woman who can't stand to see her son happy. That's what you are. The words hurt, but they also freed me. Because there it was. Her true face. No masks. No fake sweetness. Pure venom. Thank you, Chloe. Thank you for finally showing who you really are. I hope Arthur is listening to this conversation. I hope he finally sees the woman he married. There was a noise. Muffled voices. Then Arthur's voice. Mom, Chloe is just stressed. She didn't mean that. Oh, she absolutely meant it. And she's probably said worse things about me when you're not around. Or maybe you are. And you just don't care. Mom, please, We need that money. It's our future. Your future with her? That's the future you choose? A woman who insults me? A woman who calls me a bitter old woman? She didn't. Yes, she did, Arthur. And you heard her. And you're still defending her. That tells me everything I need to know about where your priorities are. I hung up again, this time with no tears. This time, with only a cold, absolute clarity. The next day, Stephen came with more news. Eleanor, I received a call from a lawyer representing Arthur and Chloe. They're threatening to sue you for unlawful withholding of funds. Can they do that? They can try. But they have no legal grounds. The money is in your account, in your name. There are no documents proving that money belongs to them. Technically, any deposit made into your account becomes your property. What if they can prove they deposited that money? Then we'd have to argue whether they were deposits or gifts. And considering they were living in your house without paying rent, it could be argued they were contributions for household expenses. It's not as simple as they think. I felt relieved, but also sad. My family was disintegrating into legal battles and threats. This wasn't what I wanted. But I couldn't just give up and let them trample me. Stephen, I don't want their money. I never did. I just want them to understand that they can't treat me the way they did without consequences. I know, but they're desperate. And desperate people do irrational things. He was right, because 2 days later, Chloe showed up at Helen's house. She knocked on the door early in the morning. I was drinking coffee when Helen told me. Eleanor, that girl is outside. Do you want me to tell her to leave? No. Let her in. I want to hear what she has to say. Chloe walked into the kitchen, dressed perfectly. Dark gray pants, an ivory blouse, flawless makeup. But her eyes were red. She had been crying. She sat down across from me without being invited. Eleanor, I came to talk woman to woman. So, I'm Eleanor again? 2 days ago, I was a bitter old woman. She looked down. I'm sorry about that. I was very upset. I shouldn't have said those things. But you did say them, and you thought them. You've probably thought them since the day you met me. She didn't deny it. She just sighed. Look, let's be honest. You and I have never gotten along. There's a constant tension between us. And yes, maybe I've said things I shouldn't have, but you haven't been easy, either. I haven't been easy? I, who welcomed you into my home. I, who cooked for you. Who treated you like a daughter, but always with conditions. Always reminding me that it was your house, your rules, your son. Her words took my breath away. Conditions? What conditions, Chloe? Asking you to respect my things? Asking you not to change everything without consulting me? Were those impossible conditions for you? She leaned forward, her eyes glittering. You never gave me space to be the woman of the house. It was always you in charge. You deciding what was cooked, how it was cleaned, how everything was organized. I was just a guest in what was supposed to be my home. Because it was my home, Chloe. I lived there for 35 years before you ever showed up. You expected me to just erase myself so you could play house. I expected you to give me a place. To make me feel like I was family, too. Her voice broke. Tears ran down her cheeks. But I no longer knew if they were real or part of another act. I did give you a place, Chloe. I opened the doors of my home and my heart to you, but you didn't want a place next to me. You wanted my place. You wanted to replace me. She shook her head violently. That's not true. I just wanted to have my own family, my own space with Arthur. Is that so terrible to want? It's not terrible to want your own space. What's terrible is the way you went about getting it. By poisoning my son's mind against me. By making him believe I was the problem. By manipulating him until he threw me out of my own home. Chloe wiped her tears away angrily. I didn't manipulate him. He made his own decisions. He chose to support me because I'm his wife. Because that's what husbands do. Husbands also honor their parents. But you made sure he forgot that part. We stared at each other in silence. Two women on opposite sides of a war that neither had wanted, but that both were fighting with everything they had. What do you want, Chloe? Why did you really come here? She took a deep breath, recomposing her mask of control. I want to negotiate. You unfreeze the account. give us access to our savings, and we move out. We'll buy our own house and leave you in peace. Everybody wins. Everybody wins? And Liam? My grandson grows up without knowing me? Is that winning too? You can see Liam whenever you want. We can arrange visits. But we need our own space, away from you. The coldness of her words hit me. She wanted to erase me from their lives, but keep the option of using me when it was convenient. No. What? I'm not unfreezing the account just because you're asking. And I'm not going to accept being a scheduled visits grandmother as if I'm a stranger. Chloe stood up abruptly. You're making a mistake, Eleanor. Arthur is going to end up hating you for this. He's already very angry, very resentful. Every day that passes without access to that money pushes him further away from you. If my son hates me for defending myself, for setting boundaries, then I've already lost him anyway. But I'm not going to make things easy for someone who treated me like garbage. And what do you gain from this? Revenge? The satisfaction of watching us suffer? I don't want revenge, Chloe. I want justice. I want you both to understand that actions have consequences, that you can't destroy someone and then expect that person to just keep giving you everything. Chloe walked to the door but stopped before leaving. You're going to end up alone, Eleanor. Completely alone. And when that happens, don't come looking for us. If I end up alone, it will be because my son chose a manipulator over his own mother. And that choice will be his, not mine. The door closed behind her. Helen came into the kitchen, her expression worried. That girl has venom in her tongue. I know, and the worst part is, Arthur doesn't see it, or doesn't want to. Give it time, Eleanor. Sons always come back to their mothers. Always. But time passed, and Arthur didn't come back. A week went by, then two. Stephen kept me informed of every legal move they tried. They filed a formal lawsuit for the $30,000. They're alleging that the money is from Arthur's paychecks and that you have no right to withhold it. And what are the judges saying? There's no hearing yet. But I can tell you, they don't have a strong case. The money is in your account. Without documentation proving it was a loan or being held in trust, it's legally yours. The thought of keeping my son's money made my stomach turn, but I couldn't just hand it over after how they had treated me. Stephen, that money. Can I put it in a trust for Liam? His eyes lit up. That's a brilliant idea. An educational trust that only he can access when he's 18. That way, the money stays in the family, but they can't touch it. Do it. Prepare the documents. I want Liam to have that money for his future, for his college, for whatever he needs. But Chloe and Arthur won't be able to use it for their plans. Stephen smiled. This is going to drive them crazy, but it's legally airtight. The trust documents were prepared in a week. Stephen sent them along with a legal notice explaining that the $30,000 had been transferred to an educational trust for Liam, inaccessible until he came of age. Arthur's call came 30 minutes after they received the documents. What did you do? That was our money, our future. It was money in my account, Arthur, and I decided its best use was for your son's future. Your son's, not yours. You had no right. I had every right, legally and morally. That money is going to ensure Liam gets an education, no matter what happens with you two. You've left us with nothing. How are we supposed to buy a house now? By working, by saving, the way I did, the way millions of people do, without expecting everything to be handed to you. You promised us. You always said everything would be for me. After my death, Arthur. After. Not while you were treating me like trash. Not while you were allowing your wife to insult me. Things changed when you changed. I heard sobbing. My son was crying. Part of me wanted to give in, to hug him, to tell him everything would be okay. But another, stronger part knew that giving in now would be validating his behavior. Mom, please, I need you. I need your help. Now you need me? When it's convenient for you? When Chloe can't solve your problems? It's not like that. Yes, it is, Arthur. And until you see that, until you truly understand what you did, there's nothing more to talk about. And Liam? Doesn't he matter? He matters more than anything. That's why I put the money in his name. To protect him. To secure his future. Something you two clearly weren't thinking about. We were going to use it to buy a house for him, to give him stability. A lie. You were going to use it to buy a house for yourselves. For Chloe. Liam was just the excuse. The silence confirmed my words. When you're ready to be honest with me, and with yourself, call me. Until then, my decisions are made. I hung up, feeling a strange mixture of power and sadness. Power, because I was finally setting firm boundaries. Sadness, because those boundaries were destroying my relationship with my son. Helen made me some chamomile tea. You did the right thing. Then why does it feel so bad? Because doing the right thing hurts when it involves the people we love. But the pain doesn't mean it's wrong. That night, I received a text message. It was from an unknown number. You're going to pay for this. You're going to end up alone and bitter. And when you want to see your grandson, I'll make sure you never can. This isn't over. It was Chloe, threatening me, showing her true colors once again. I took a screenshot of the message and sent it to Stephen. His reply was immediate. This is harassment. We can use this in your favor if things escalate legally. Things had already escalated. My family was broken. My son hated me. My daughter-in-law was threatening me. And I was living in a neighbor's house because my own home had been denied to me. But something in me refused to give up. I refused to be the victim in this story. 3 weeks passed with no direct word from Arthur or Chloe. 3 weeks of heavy silence that allowed me to think, to reflect, to let the open wounds heal a little. Stephen continued to monitor the legal situation. The lawsuit for the money was dismissed. The judge confirmed that since it was in your account, with no documentation proving otherwise, the money was legally yours to dispose of as you wished. The trust for Liam is registered and protected. I felt a small sense of relief. At least I was legally secure, but emotionally, I was still a wreck. My son wasn't speaking to me. My grandson was growing up without me, and the house that had been my refuge for decades was now enemy territory. Helen had taken me in with infinite generosity, but I knew I couldn't stay at her house forever. I needed to make decisions about my future. One afternoon, while drinking coffee in Helen's kitchen, I heard shouting outside. I looked out the window and saw something that froze my blood. Arthur was in the street, in front of the house, holding Liam's hand. My grandson looked confused, scared, and Arthur was shouting my name. Mom, I know you're in there. Come out, I need to talk to you. His voice sounded desperate, broken. I walked out slowly, my heart pounding like a drum. When Liam saw me, he let go of his father's hand and ran to me. Grandma, Grandma! I scooped him up into my arms, and he hugged me tightly. He smelled like baby soap and innocence. My beautiful boy, I missed you so much. Tears rolled down my cheeks uncontrollably. Arthur approached slowly. He looked terrible. Sunken eyes, an unshaven beard, wrinkled clothes. It was like seeing a ghost of my son. Mom, forgive me. His voice broke. Please, forgive me. I just looked at him, holding Liam, not knowing what to say. The words were stuck in my throat. Where's Chloe? I finally asked. She's gone. She left. 3 days ago. She packed her bags and went to her parents' house. She said she couldn't live like this, that I was a failure, that if I couldn't even control my own mother, I couldn't provide for a family. The words tumbled out of him like vomit, like expelled poison. She said she'd come back when I got things under control. When I got the money back. When I put you in your place. His words revealed everything. Chloe hadn't left out of hurt feelings. She had left as a strategy, to pressure Arthur, to force him to choose between her and me, once and for all. And you? What did you choose? Arthur collapsed. He literally fell to his knees in the street, sobbing like a child. I don't want to choose, Mom. I don't want to lose you. But I don't want to lose my wife either. I'm broken. I don't know what to do. Helen came out and took Liam from my arms. Come on inside, champ. Let's go find some cookies. My grandson went with her, leaving us alone. I sat down on the porch step. Arthur was still on his knees in the street. Get up, Arthur. Get up and come here. He got up with difficulty and sat next to me. I didn't touch him. I still couldn't. What happened these past few days? I asked. He wiped his face with his hands. Everything fell apart. We tried to live in the house, but the utilities started getting shut off. Power, water, internet. Everything was connected to the frozen account. I had to pay for everything out of my salary, and it was barely enough. Chloe complained all the time. She said this was my fault, that because I didn't set boundaries with you, now we were living like poor people. Like poor people, I repeated bitterly. Arthur, that's how I lived for years to raise you, counting every penny, paying bills on a tight budget, working until my hands bled. That's living with little. You two were just living without my subsidies. He nodded, ashamed. I know that now. I never realized how much you did, how much you paid for. I thought the house just ran itself, that the bills paid themselves, that food just magically appeared. I was an idiot. You were more than an idiot. You were cruel, ungrateful, blind. Every word was a blow, but a necessary one. I know, Mom. I know, and I hate myself for it. I've spent these past few weeks remembering everything. Remembering how you used to get up at 5 in the morning to go to work, how you'd come home exhausted but still make me dinner, how you sold Grandma's jewelry to pay for my school. Everything I blocked out of my mind because Chloe convinced me you were the problem. And now? Now that Chloe isn't there to whisper in your ear, you see the truth. I see that I was manipulated. I see that she planted ideas in my head. But I also see that I let them grow. I chose to believe her over you. And that's unforgivable. At least he was recognizing his own responsibility. That was something. Arthur, Chloe didn't force you to throw my things on the lawn. She didn't force you to slam the door in my face. She didn't force you to humiliate me in front of the neighbors. Those were your decisions, your actions. I know. Do you? Do you really? Because saying I know is easy. But understanding the damage you caused, feeling the pain you put me through, that's different. Mom, if I could go back in time. But you can't. And here we are, with a destroyed family, with a broken relationship, with a little boy who doesn't understand why his grandma doesn't live with him anymore. Arthur looked toward the house where Liam was with Helen. He asks for you all the time. He cries at night, asking for Grandma. Chloe told him you went on a trip, but he didn't understand why you wouldn't call him. Those words tore me apart. My grandson, suffering because of stupid adult decisions. And what did you tell him? Nothing. I didn't know what to say. How do you explain to your son that his dad was an idiot who kicked his grandmother out of the house? We sat in silence. A heavy silence, full of regret and pain. What do you want, Arthur? What do you want from me now? I want you to come home. I want to fix this. I want Liam to have his grandmother. I want. Do you want or do you need? Because needing my money and wanting my presence are two very different things. He looked me straight in the eyes. I need you, Mom, but not for the money. I need you because, without you, I've realized I'm lost, that I don't know how to be a father, that I don't know how to be a man. Because everything I am, I owe to you, and I forgot that. His words sounded sincere, but I had been fooled before. And Chloe, when she comes back, what happens then? I don't know if she's coming back. I talked to her yesterday. I told her I wanted you to come home. She told me that if you did, she wouldn't, that I had to choose. And what did you choose? I haven't officially chosen. But I'm here. That has to tell you something. It wasn't enough. It wasn't a clear choice. It was a possibility, a half answer. Arthur, I'm not coming back to that house just for Chloe to return in a month, and we start the same cycle all over again. I will not be the emotional yo-yo between you and your wife. Then tell me what you want. What do you need to forgive me? I need you to be honest with yourself. I need you to decide what kind of man you want to be. The kind of man who lets his wife abuse his mother? Or the kind of man who sets boundaries and protects his entire family? Arthur was quiet, thinking. I could see the internal battle on his face. Chloe gave me an ultimatum. Her or you. And how do you feel about that? I feel like ultimatums are wrong. I feel like a wife who really loved me wouldn't force me to choose. I feel like, he stopped. I feel like maybe Chloe isn't the woman I thought she was. Finally, he was finally seeing the light. And what are you going to do about that? I don't know. We have a son together. I can't just get a divorce. I'm not asking you to get a divorce. I'm asking you to be a man who sets boundaries, who doesn't let anyone, not even his wife, manipulate him into hurting the people he loves." Arthur nodded slowly. "Would you come home if I promise things will be different?" "Promises are words, Arthur. I need actions. I need to see real change. And you need to understand that even if I come back, things won't be like they were before. You broke something between us that is going to take a very long time to repair. I understand, and I'm willing to work on it, for as long as it takes." I looked into his eyes, searching for sincerity, and I found it, mixed with pain and shame, but it was there. "All right, I'll come back, but with conditions." Arthur nodded eagerly. "Whatever they are, tell me what you need." "First condition, the house stays in my name, period. It's not up for discussion. It's not up for negotiation. It is my property, and it stays that way until the day I die. After that, it will be yours, but as long as I'm alive, it's mine." "Accepted." "Second condition, if Chloe comes back, she has to apologize to me. A real, sincere apology, with no justifications. And she has to respect that this is my house, not hers. She will not change things. She will not make decisions about the property without consulting me. If she can't accept that, then she can't live there." Arthur swallowed hard, but nodded. "Understood." Third condition, family therapy. You, me, and if Chloe comes back, her too. We need professional help to heal this. We can't do it alone. "I agree." And fourth condition, Liam's trust fund stays exactly as it is. That money is for him, for his education. It is not to be touched for any other reason. If you two need money for your own house, you will save for it by working, like everyone else. Arthur closed his eyes, breathing deeply. "That's fair. All of it is fair. I accept your conditions. And one last thing. Arthur, if you ever treat me the way you treated me again, if you ever disrespect me again, if you ever allow anyone to humiliate me again, I will leave, and it will be for good. And there will be no second chances. Understood?" "Understood, Mom. I promise you, never again." I looked at him for a long time. Then, slowly, I held out my hand. He took it and wept. "Forgive me. Mom, please, forgive me." "I forgive you, son. But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It means giving this a chance." I moved back into my house 2 days later. Arthur had cleaned everything. He had put fresh flowers on the table. He had reframed the photographs that had been damaged. The house smelled clean, like effort, like regret. Liam ran to hug me as soon as I walked through the door. "Grandma, you're back. You're not leaving again." "No, my love. I'm not leaving again." That night, we ate dinner together. Just Arthur, Liam, and me. Like a small, but real, family. Arthur cooked, though the food wasn't great. But the effort was worth more than the taste. We talked. Really talked. No yelling, no accusations, just honest conversation. "Mom, I contacted a therapist. We have an appointment next week." "Good. That's a good start." "And I spoke with Chloe. I told her your conditions." He paused. "She didn't take it well." "What did she say?" "She said it was ridiculous that you were setting rules, that the house should be ours as a couple, that you were manipulating me again." "And what did you say?" Arthur looked at me with determination. "I told her you weren't manipulating me, that you were setting fair boundaries after how I treated you, and that if she couldn't accept that, then we had a serious problem in our marriage." I was surprised by his firmness. "How did she react?" "She hung up. We haven't spoken since." The days turned into weeks. Arthur and I went to therapy. Every session was difficult, painful, but necessary. We brought up old resentments, misunderstandings, deep wounds. The therapist helped us communicate without attacking, to express pain without assigning blame. Slowly, very slowly, we began to heal. Liam blossomed with me back in the house. He started smiling all the time again. He went back to being the happy little boy he was before all the conflict. And I, for the first time in months, felt at peace. It wasn't complete happiness. It still hurt. There were still scars. But there was peace. Chloe returned 2 months later. She showed up at the door one afternoon with suitcases and a defeated expression. "I need to talk to you." We sat in the living room. All three of us. The tension was palpable. Chloe looked at me, avoiding direct eye contact. "Eleanor, I'm here to apologize. I know I was difficult. I know I said hurtful things. And I know I pressured Arthur to make decisions that hurt everyone. I waited. I knew there was more. I come from a complicated family. My mother was very controlling. And when I came here, I saw in you the same things I saw in her. I got defensive. I wanted to fight for my territory before you could crush me. But I realized, you never tried to crush me. I created that war in my mind." Her words sounded rehearsed, but there was a flicker of sincerity in them. "Chloe, I appreciate your apology, but I need you to understand something. I was never your enemy. I wanted this to work. I wanted to love you like a daughter. But you saw me as a threat from the very beginning." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I know, and I'm sorry. I truly am. And the conditions? Can you live with them? I don't like them. I'm not going to lie. But I understand why they exist, and I'm willing to try. For Arthur, for Liam, for this family." I looked at Arthur. He looked back, waiting for my decision. "All right, you can stay. But the first sign of disrespect, the first manipulation, the first time you try to turn my son against me, you're gone. No discussion." "Understood. Understood." The first few months with Chloe back were tense. We walked on eggshells. Every conversation was careful, measured, almost artificial. But over time, with therapy, with constant effort, things improved. We didn't become a perfect family. We never had been. But we became a functional one. A family that communicated, that set boundaries, that respected each other's space. Chloe started to consult me before changing things in the house. "Eleanor, would you mind if we painted Liam's room? Something more cheerful for a little boy." "What color were you thinking?" "A light green." "Like a garden." "That sounds lovely. Go ahead." Small victories, small moments of cooperation that built trust. Arthur blossomed too. In therapy, he began to understand behavioral patterns he had ignored. He started setting boundaries with Chloe when she tried to manipulate situations. "Chloe, that's not fair to my mom. You need to apologize." And she would, grudgingly at first, but she would do it. 2 years later, life had found a balance. Not perfect, but functional. I was still the owner of the house. I still had my space, my voice, my place in the family. Chloe had learned to share instead of compete, and Arthur had learned to be the bridge between us instead of the battlefield. One afternoon, as we were drinking coffee in the backyard, Chloe surprised me. "Eleanor, thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on us. For setting boundaries when we needed them. For teaching me that respect is the foundation of everything. My mother never taught me that, but you did." Her words moved me. "Chloe, a family isn't perfect. It's constant work, daily effort. And sometimes it's setting hard boundaries so everyone understands their place. I know that now. And I'm grateful." That night, lying in my bed, in my house, in my home, I reflected on everything that had happened. I had lost my son temporarily. I had been publicly humiliated. I had been forced to fight legally for what was mine. I had hit rock bottom emotionally, but I had also found my strength. I had learned that love without respect is destructive. I had learned that forgiving doesn't mean enabling abuse. I had learned that sometimes protecting the past, protecting what you built with sacrifice, is the only way to save the future. Arthur knocked softly on my door. "Mom, are you awake?" "Yes, come in." He came in and sat on the edge of my bed, just like he did when he was a boy. "I just wanted to tell you something." "Tell me." "Thank you for not abandoning me, for not giving up on me, for giving me the chance to be better. You're the best mother anyone could ever have. And I'm just sorry it took me so long to see it." I hugged him. "My son, my Arthur, lost, and found. I love you, son. I've always loved you, even when you hurt me. I love you too, Mom. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving it. I looked out the window at the starry night. I thought about all the mothers who had gone through similar situations, mothers betrayed by manipulated children, mothers kicked out of their own homes, mothers fighting to maintain their dignity while the world told them to just sacrifice more. And I wanted to tell them something. I wanted to tell them that it's okay to set boundaries, that it's okay to defend yourself, that a mother's love does not mean accepting abuse, that forgiveness is beautiful, but not at the cost of your dignity, that sometimes the best way to love your children is to teach them that their actions have consequences, that respect is earned, not demanded, and that in the end, the truth always comes to light. Justice might be slow, it might hurt, it might cost tears and sleepless nights, but it arrives. It always arrives. I closed my eyes in peace. In my house. In my home. Surrounded by an imperfect family, but one that had finally learned to respect me, and I knew it had all been worth it. Every tear, every battle, every moment of pain. Because in the end, I didn't just get my son back. I got myself back, and that was the most valuable thing of all.